To avoid frustration, this video is cut into 3 parts, part 1, 2, and 3.
Solving Sudoku together. I have a video that briefly teaches you how to play. There are levels of difficulty, and we'll start off with an easier version. You can use this video and this game to practice patience, practice trusting a long, tedious, slow process, practice organization skills, and paying attention to detail. I'm writing the numbers 1 through 9 to help me see my progress as I'm moving along. As I am practicing patience, we're taking somewhat of a long way to solve it. However, there are faster ways. And let's get started. So I'll start with the number 1 and see if I have any information and I can start eliminating squares. I see some ones here, so I'm going to try to solve for this block since I have 2 pieces of information. So that number 1 will block off all these squares from being number 1, and that number 1 will eliminate all these squares from being number 1. However, I don't have enough information to eliminate those 2 boxes, so number 1 could be here or here. And I'm using a pencil so I can erase this later, but those little side notes come in handy, very handy later on. Now I'll try to solve for this block since I have this and this information. That one will eliminate all those squares, and that one will eliminate all those squares. There's 2 possibilities here and here for the number 1 to be in. I'll write those side notes and continue on. So now I'll try to solve for that block since I have this and this as information. That one will eliminate all those squares from being 1, and that one will eliminate all these squares from being 1. As you can see, I still have 2 possibilities for the number 1 to be in, so I'll make little side notes. So just for fun, I'm going to try to solve for this block up here, even though I only have 1 piece of information, and that one would block off these squares. And it leaves me way too many options where the number 1 could be. So I'll just move on to the number 2. So I'll try to solve for this block since I have a lot of pieces of information. So this 2 right here will block off all these squares, and that 2 will block off all these squares, and that 2 will eliminate all of these squares. So 2 must be here. Looking for the number 2 in this square now, I'm going to use these 2 pieces of information. This 2 will eliminate all these squares, and this 2 will eliminate all these squares. I don't have information on these side blocks, so 2 can be here or here. And now solving for this block, since I have 2 pieces of information, that 2 will eliminate all these squares, and this 2 will eliminate all these squares. So 2 could be here or here since I have no more information to eliminate either one of those boxes. Looking in this block, since I have a lot of numbers already filled in here, this 2 will eliminate all these squares. And I don't really have any other information to help me eliminate either one of these 2 boxes, so I'll fill it in with possibility of being 2. Moving on to solving this block, that 2 will eliminate all those squares from being 2, and that 2 will eliminate all these squares from being 2, leaving me 2 still open options since I have no information here. 2 can be here or here, so I'll note that down. A brief look tells me that's it for 2, so I'll move on to the number 3, and I'll solve for this block since I have a lot of information provided. This 3 will eliminate all of these squares. And here you can see that that 3 blocks these, and this 3 blocks these, which are already blocked off. And since I have no information to cross-reference with, that means that 3 can be here or here. So I'll notate that. Moving on to this block. This 3 will eliminate all these squares. And this 3 will eliminate all these squares. So 3 must be here or here since I have no other information. Moving on to this block. This 3 will eliminate all these squares. And that 3 will eliminate all these squares. I don't have any more information, so 3 can be either here or here, and I'll notate it down. Solving for this block now, since I have 3 pieces of information, and that 3 will eliminate all these squares. This 3 eliminates all these squares, and that 3 eliminates all these squares, giving me my answer to be here. And that's it for number 3, so I'll move on to the number 4. And I have information here and here, so I'll solve this block. This 4 will eliminate all these squares. And that 4 will eliminate all these squares. And this 4 eliminates where the 2 already takes its place, leaving only one box to be possible to have number 4, and it's this box. So now I'll try solving for this box. So this 4 eliminates these squares, and where this 4 would block, the boxes are already blocked. There's no other information, so therefore 4 is going to be either here or here. And now looking around, I have a lot of information, so I'll solve for this one. And I'll start with this 4, which will eliminate all these squares. And this 4, which will eliminate these squares, leaving me with that 4, which will eliminate these squares, and I have my answer. 4 must be here. And now having this 4, I'm going to use it to block off all these squares. And I'm going to use that 4 to block off all these squares. And this 4, that's already blocked off, leaving me my answer to be here. And now I can use this brand new information to block off these squares. And you can see that the side note said that the 4 could be there, but that brand new information eliminates that possibility. So I'll go ahead and erase it. And I'll check my answers. So number 4 is here, which will eliminate all these squares. And then this 4 blocks off these squares. And that 4 blocks off that side, leaving my answer matching my notes that the 4 must be here. So I'm going to erase that little side note and jot my 4 down. And this 4 will give me all of my 4s, and I'll go ahead and see my progress. I'm completely done with number 4. Moving on to number 5. And this block is missing a 5, so I'll go ahead and look at the information I have. This 5 is going to eliminate this whole row of squares, and that 5 is going to eliminate all these squares. And that 5 eliminates these squares that are already eliminated, so 5 must be here. Moving on to this block, since I have that 5, that brand new information, I'll go ahead and use it and eliminate all these squares, leaving my answer, because that 5 blocks all of these, 5 must be here. And now looking at this block, I'm missing a 5. So this 5 will eliminate all these squares. And this 5 eliminates all these squares. That 5 doesn't really help much, and I don't have information here, so 5 could be either here or here. Moving on to this block, since I have some information, so that 5 eliminates these squares, and this 5 eliminates these squares, and that 5 eliminates those squares, giving me my answer. 5 must be here. And having that new information, I'll try to solve here and check in with my side notes. That 5 will eliminate those squares, and this 5